Hi everybody, Carissa here with Inky Fairy Designs, and I am back with another project with Ranger using Dina Wakley Media. We're going to be working in her new media journal. You can see here what we're making and kind of all of the products we're going to be using. I'm also going to show you here kind of individually what products we're going to be using. This is the Dina Wakley Media Journal, and this is my first time working in it. I'm sure all of you guys have seen it by now and know that inside there's all these different substrates for you to work on. You can see there's different canvases, like canvas paper, heavy cardstock, and of course the burlap that you can see, and each page is a different substrate, so it pushes you out of your boundaries. It pushes you pushes your creativity and kind of gives you something new to work on every time you flip a page. So it's really cool. I'm excited to fill it up. You can see I have not started working in it yet. So I'm going to also pull out some of my Dina Wakley Media stamps. These are the scribble texts and the scribbles, I think. I've got some white gesso and also multi-matte medium that I'm going to use for some collage. And then I've also got some of her paints. I pulled out a bunch of her paints, the heavy body acrylic, sky lapis, ruby, magenta, lemon, evergreen, and lime, and some whites. This is a spring-inspired art journal page that I'm doing. Oh, I also pulled out Rosy, which is one of the new metallic colors, which is my favorite, and I do end up using it on this page, and it is the pop that it needed. So let's get started. I'm just flipping open to page 1. I'm not picking out which substrate I want to work on or whatever. I'm just opening it up. Page 1, that's what I'm going to work on. So it's kind of like a linen type of paper, I want to say. I'm not exactly sure what all the papers are inside the journal, but I'm sure you can find out. And I am breaking through the blank page syndrome by adding some collage. So this is something that I like to do whether I use pattern paper or the tissue paper. This is tissue paper by Tim Holtz, and I just like to use some multi-matte medium and add it onto my page. Kind of the first thing that I do. It breaks up that page. I'm no longer staring or having that blank canvas stare back at me. So I just put it all over my page, and then because I am using tissue paper, I just lay it right on top, and then I'll add some more of that multi-matte medium over the tissue paper just to kind of seal it into place. And then I'll dry that with my heat tool, and once it's all dry, I'll go in, and the next step is to use a very light wash of gesso. So I'll start with just bringing it right out of the jar onto my page, and then I'm dipping my paintbrush into water just to make it a little bit thinner and watery, and then I'm going to take a baby wipe and kind of lift off some of those areas and let it dry, or dry it with my heat tool. And when the gesso dries, it dries lighter than when you apply it, so you'll be able to see all of that texture underneath that paper and the pattern. So next I'm coming in with some of the heavy body paints, and I am spraying some water just to kind of get them moving onto my page. I was going for more of a watercolor background look, but I ended up adding a bunch of layers on top, so I don't really quite have that effect in the end, but I'm really happy with the effect that I do have at the end. So it's kind of just a process, and you know, I just work it until I'm happy, and I add a little bit more water. I'll add some more paint. I'll use my fingers to move it around, and then I'll spray some more water and kind of try to get it running down, getting some paint to run down my page. So it's just kind of like working and figuring out what look I really want for this background. I'm going for a sky, excuse me, so I'm just kind of keeping it darker at the bottom and lighter at the top. And I wanted to keep kind of a frame around my page, that white area, so I'm kind of wiping up around the edges of my page. So happy with that. I wiped off some with a baby wipe, and now I'm coming in now that it's dry, and I'm going to do some stamping for some texture. So I'm using this really cool circle stamp. I love this one. I'm using her stamp pad in Night, and I don't. The other color is turquoise, I think. Um, Night and Ocean is the other color. So two different blues, kind of adding that texture to the background with my blues. And then I really would love a Hickory Smoke full-size stamp pad in archival ink, but I made my own because they have these DIY ones, and so that was perfect. I just got the re-inker, and then I added a little bit more texture on my background because I wanted it to be soft and subtle, and Hickory Smoke is probably one of my favorite all-time colors with distressing, so it's really cool to have it in a permanent ink now. Okay, so now I'm going in. I've got my background ready to go. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do some very abstract flowers. I love tulips in the springtime. They're my favorite flowers. I love to see them pushing through, and that's kind of the inspiration behind my page, is because you plant tulips in the fall before the first frost, and they sit there all through winter, and then spring comes and the things come alive again, and these tulips that have been sitting under the snow and the dirt, they push through that, and they're just beautiful, and they bloom, and it's gorgeous. So that's what I'm creating on my page, and I use her scribble sticks to kind of add a little bit of an outline around each of the flowers. The paint is still wet, and I use the scribble stick on top no matter what. And it wasn't as dark as I wanted it, but it's okay. We're gonna go back in and do some more stuff later. But I just kind of used my fingers to paint some stems and some very loose leaves. Using two different colors to give a little bit of a dimension and shading and shadows and highlights and all of that. So I really love how my flowers are turning out, and I'm using the scribble stick again over the wet paint, and it kind of is cool because it does write over the wet paint, and it kind of gives a little bit more texture because it lifts off some of the paint as well. So now I'm going in with a Stabilo all-purpose pencil, and that gives me the darker shading that I really want here, but my paint is still wet, and I'm coming in and I wanted to add a little bit more pink because I kind of lost that with all of the red and the yellow that I added on top. And so I'm just kind of using my fingers and adding a little bit more color. And I think I come in here with, Rosie. And oh my gosh, I wasn't sure if it was going to look okay. But oh my gosh, it's the beautiful, and I'm showing you how shiny it is, and I just love it. So, and you can see I just flipped the page and kind of add my extra paints and stuff, and I just slap it on there, and eventually I'll do something on that page. Now that my paint is all dry, I'm coming back in with the Stabilo all-purpose pencil, and I just love the way this kind of melts with the water, and it really creates some shadows and depth, and it's very loose and scribbly. I didn't want it to be perfect because I'm not perfect. I just wanted the illusion of flowers. I think anybody can draw or paint flowers because they're so beautiful, and it's just shapes. And if you have the shape, you can create that illusion of a flower or that emotion of a flower just by using your color. So I'm adding a little bit more texture with her scribble stamps off to the side of each of my flowers. And then I wanted to come in with my quote, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to do that. So you can see I'm kind of thinking, but I'm coming in and I'm just writing it onto her blank media tapes, which is kind of cool because there's like 3 different sizes, and you could totally write anything you want on it and add it to your page this way. So it was kind of an epiphany for me that I could write on these and then add it to my page after I sat and thought, man, I wish I had a typewriter because that would be perfect for this right now. But I'm using my own handwriting, and my quote is, even the flowers have to push past the dirt. Like I said in the beginning, the whole inspiration behind this page is spring, and tulips are my favorite spring flower, and they do they bloom and they push through that dirt, and I think all of us can bloom and push past that dirt. Um, so just kind of think about that. So after I had that on my page and dried it, I went back in to darken up my writing so you could see it better. You can also see that I added some white paint where I was going to put the tape so that it wouldn't get lost in the background. So that's an easy way to let your journaling stand out. Just add a couple swipes of white paint or lighter paint and put your journal on top. Thanks guys so much for watching this video. Here are some close-ups on my finished page. I really hope you enjoyed this and it inspired you to kind of do your own thing and try to draw some flowers for spring. I love the Dina Wakley Media products. They are so awesome to work with, and I am in love with her new journal. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.